Commander Elijah Carter looked out the main viewport of the Earth Alliance vessel Horizon. Stars stretched out before him, each one a potential home to life forms humanity had yet to meet. After 15 years in space, Elijah still felt a sense of wonder when he considered the vastness of the universe. "Commander, we're picking up unusual energy readings from the fourth planet in this system," said Lieutenant Frank Miller, interrupting Elijah's thoughts. Elijah turned from the viewport. "What kind of readings, Lieutenant?" "They're unlike anything in our database, sir. Definitely artificial, but using an energy pattern we've never encountered before." Elijah's interest was piqued. This was why they were out here, after Earth Alliance had decided to push exploration beyond the settled colonies. The Horizon was one of the newest exploration vessels, built for extended missions into uncharted space. "Put it on the main screen," Elijah ordered. The planet appeared before them. It looked ordinary enough. A world with swirling cloud formations over a surface of blue oceans and land masses that glowed with a strange purple vegetation. "The energy signature is strongest in the northern hemisphere," Frank said, pointing to a cluster of lights visible even from orbit. Elijah studied the readings. Protocol dictated caution when approaching potentially inhabited planets, but these energy patterns were too intriguing to ignore. "Prepare a landing party," he decided. "I'll lead it myself." His second-in-command, Laura Peterson, frowned. "Sir, regulations state that the commanding officer should remain on the ship during first contact situations." Elijah smiled. "Laura, if we followed every regulation to the letter, we'd never discover anything interesting. This could be the most significant find of our mission." The landing party assembled in the shuttle bay. Elijah, two security officers named Sam Harris, and Diane Foster, and the ship's xenobiologist, Dr. Alan Wright. All were experienced officers who had been with Elijah on previous expeditions. "Keep communications open at all times," Laura reminded them as they boarded the shuttle. "At the first sign of trouble, we're pulling you out." Elijah nodded. "We'll be careful." The descent to the planet's surface was smooth. They landed in a clearing about a mile from the energy source, not wanting to appear threatening by landing too close. The air outside was breathable, according to their instruments, though it carried a metallic tang that made Elijah wrinkle his nose as they exited the shuttle. "Fascinating plant life," Dr. Wright said, examining the purple vegetation. "The chlorophyll equivalent must absorb different wavelengths than Earth plants." They walked toward the energy source, passing through a forest of tall, thin trees with spiral patterns on their trunks. The ground was covered in a carpet of something that resembled moss but reacted to their footsteps by changing color. "I don't see any signs of animal life," Diane noted, her hand resting on her stunner. "They might be hiding," Sam suggested. "We're pretty strange looking after all." As they approached a ridge overlooking a valley, Elijah held up his hand, signaling the team to stop. Below them stood structures unlike any human architecture, buildings that seemed to grow from the ground itself, with geometric patterns that shifted and moved across their surfaces. "Active camouflage technology," Elijah murmured. "Incredible." Dr. Wright was scanning the structures. "The energy readings are off the charts. This civilization must be at least 100 years ahead of Earth technology." Elijah tapped his communicator. "Horizon, are you seeing this?" Static answered him. "Comms are being jammed," Sam said, checking his device. "We should go back to the shuttle," Diane suggested. "Report what we found before making contact." Elijah nodded. "Agreed, let's—" A high-pitched whine cut through the air. Elijah felt the hairs on his arms stand up as an invisible force field surrounded them. "Weapons ready!" he shouted, drawing his own stunner. They never had a chance to use them. 6 tall, scaled figures seemed to materialize from nowhere. They had 4 arms each and moved with unnatural speed. Sam was the first to fall, hit by something that looked like light but knocked him unconscious instantly. Diane managed to fire her stunner, but it had no effect on the attackers. She went down next. Dr. Wright was grabbed by 2 of the creatures. He struggled, but their strength was overwhelming. Elijah fired repeatedly, backing toward the ridge. One of his shots connected, and an attacker stumbled. But then something hit him from behind, a seventh attacker he hadn't seen. Pain exploded at the base of his skull. As consciousness faded, his last thought was of the horizon and how they would never know what happened to their commander. Elijah woke to a pounding headache and the taste of copper in his mouth. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the harsh white light that filled the room. The walls were smooth and featureless, with no visible door or window. The only furniture was the hard platform he lay on and a small metal table bolted to the floor in the center of the room. He tried to sit up and felt a wave of dizziness. His hand went to his neck where he discovered a strange device attached to his skin. It was cool to the touch and seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. His uniform was gone, replaced by a plain gray jumpsuit made of a material he didn't recognize. "Where am I?" he said aloud, his voice echoing in the empty room. As if in response, a section of the wall slid open. A tall figure entered, ducking its head to clear the doorway. Elijah stared at the creature, taking in its appearance. It stood nearly 7 feet tall with a body covered in iridescent scales that shifted color slightly as it moved. 4 arms emerged from its torso, the lower pair slightly smaller than the upper. Its face was almost reptilian, with large amber eyes that had vertical pupils like a cat's. "You are awake." "Good," the creature said. Its voice had an odd metallic quality, but the words were in perfect English. "I am Zorvak, lead interrogator for the Zaxiri Intelligence Division." Elijah straightened his back, fighting through the pain in his head. "Commander Elijah Carter, Earth Alliance Vessel Horizon." "Yes. We know who you are, Commander." Zorvak moved closer. "Your species has been of interest to us for some time. You expand quickly. Your technology advances at an unusual rate. The Zaxiri Empire considers this concerning." "Where are my crew members?" Elijah asked. "The others who landed with you? They are not your concern anymore." Zorvak's upper right hand gestured dismissively. "You are the ship commander. You are the one with the information we need." Elijah felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He didn't want to think about what that dismissive gesture might mean for Sam, Diane, and Dr. Wright. "What have you done with my ship? Your vessel escaped. It seems your second in command is competent. When communication was lost, she moved the ship out of range before we could capture it." Zorvak made a sound that might have been a sigh. "No matter. We have you." The alien moved to the table and passed its hand over the surface. The metal shimmered and transformed into what appeared to be a control panel. "Let me explain your situation, Commander Carter. You will provide us with information about Earth's defenses, military capabilities, colony locations, and strategic plans. In exchange, your death will be quick and painless." Elijah met the alien's gaze steadily. "Commander Elijah Carter, service. Number 774-938-6012. Zorvak's scales flickered to a darker shade. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation." It touched the device on Elijah's neck. "This neural interface allows us to cause pain directly in your nervous system. Your species is physically weak. Your minds break easily. It is only a matter of time." "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-6012, Elijah repeated. The alien studied him for a moment, head tilted slightly. "Interesting. Most species show fear at this point." It touched the control panel. "Perhaps a demonstration is needed." Pain seared through Elijah's body, as if every nerve ending had been set on fire at once. He gasped and fell to his knees, but no sound escaped his lips. The pain lasted for 10 seconds that felt like an eternity. When it stopped, he found himself on all fours, breathing heavily. With effort, he pushed himself back to a sitting position on the platform. "Most impressive," Zorvak said, "but that was merely the lowest setting. We have not yet begun the real interrogation." The alien moved toward the door, which slid open at its approach. "Rest, Commander. Tomorrow you will tell us everything we wish to know, or you will experience pain beyond your imagination." After Zorvak left, Elijah examined his cell more carefully. The room was a perfect cube, about 15 feet on each side. The air felt recycled and carried a strange scent he couldn't identify. He tested the device on his neck but found it was firmly attached to his skin, impossible to remove without tools. He lay back on the hard platform and closed his eyes. Laura would have reported his capture to Earth Alliance by now. They would be looking for him. His job was to survive until they found him, and to give the Zaxiri nothing. Elijah did not know how much time had passed when they came for him. There was no day or night in his cell, just the constant white light. He had managed to sleep a little, training from his military days helping him rest despite the circumstances. The door slid open, and 2 Zaxiri guards entered. Unlike Zorvak, these wore armor that covered their scales, making them look more machine than living creature. They didn't speak as they grabbed Elijah with their upper arms and pulled him to his feet. They led him through a series of identical, white corridors. Elijah tried to memorize the route, 3 lefts, 1 right down a sloping hallway, but soon lost track as they wound deeper into what he assumed was an underground facility. They arrived at a room much larger than his cell. In the center stood a metal chair with restraints. Various devices hung from the ceiling on flexible arms, and along one wall was a console with blinking lights and screens showing data Elijah couldn't read. Zorvak stood by the chair, along with a smaller Zaxiri whose scales had a bluish tint. The smaller alien watched Elijah with wide eyes that seemed almost curious. "Secure him," Zorvak ordered. The guards pushed Elijah into the chair. Cold metal restraints automatically closed around his wrists, ankles, and across his chest. "This is the interrogation chamber," Zorvak explained. "Many species have revealed their secrets in this room. None have left without telling us everything we wish to know." It gestured to the smaller Zaxiri. "This is Zixara, a junior interrogator who will observe today." Zixara nodded slightly but remained silent. "Now, Commander," Zorvak continued, "we will begin simply. Tell us the exact coordinates of your home planet, Earth." Elijah looked straight ahead. "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-60112. As expected." Zorvak moved to the console and pressed several controls. One of the hanging devices descended until it was positioned above Elijah's head. It extended thin metal probes that attached themselves to his temples. These neural inducers are calibrated specifically to human brain patterns. "We have studied your species long enough to understand your pain centers quite well." Elijah kept his expression neutral, though his heart was racing. He focused on his breathing, trying to prepare himself for what was coming. "The coordinates of Earth, Commander," Zorvak repeated. "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-6012. Zorvak touched the console. Pain shot through Elijah's head like a lightning bolt. It was sharper, more precise than the demonstration from the day before. This pain targeted specific nerves, making it feel like his brain was being sliced by tiny knives. He clenched his teeth, his body going rigid against the restraints. Not a sound escaped his lips. After 30 seconds, the pain stopped. Elijah sagged in the chair, sweat beading on his forehead. "Interesting," Zorvak said, studying a display. "Your pain tolerance is higher than our models predicted." It adjusted some settings. "Let us try again. How many ships are in the Earth Alliance fleet?" Elijah took a deep breath. "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-60112. This time the pain was like fire running through his veins. Every muscle in his body contracted at once. His vision blurred, and he tasted blood where he had bitten the inside of his cheek. Still, he did not cry out. When it ended, he heard Zixara speak for the first time. The human's vital signs remain stable. Most subjects show significant deterioration by now. "Yes," Zorvak said, a note of surprise in its voice. "Most unusual." The questions continued. What were Earth's defensive capabilities? Where were the human colonies located? What weapons did Earth Alliance ships carry? Each time Elijah responded only with his name, rank and number. Each time the pain grew worse. Hours passed. Elijah lost track of how many times Zorvak activated the neural inducers. His body was covered in sweat, and several times he had nearly lost consciousness. But he had not screamed, he had not begged, and most importantly, he had revealed nothing. Finally, Zorvak stepped back from the console. Enough for today. No species has ever endured the first session without breaking. I underestimated you, Commander Carter. As the guards unstrapped him from the chair, Elijah noticed something strange. Zorvak's hands were trembling slightly, and Zixara was watching him not with the clinical detachment of a scientist, but with what looked almost like respect. They returned him to his cell, where he collapsed onto the platform, every muscle aching. But as pain gave way to exhaustion, Elijah felt something unexpected, a tiny spark of hope. The Zaxiri weren't invincible, and they clearly didn't understand humans as well as they thought they did. 3 more physical interrogation sessions followed over what Elijah estimated was about a week. Each time, the pain grew worse. Each time he remained silent beyond giving his name, rank, and service number, and each time, he noticed the growing frustration in Zorvak's movements. After the 4th session, Elijah overheard the lead interrogator speaking with someone outside his cell. "The human's resistance is unprecedented," Zorvak said. "Physical methods are proving ineffective," a deeper voice responded. "Then move to psychological approaches. The high command grows impatient. They want results." When the door to his cell opened the next day, a new Zaxiri entered. This one was smaller than Zorvak, with scales that shifted between deep purple and blue. It wore what appeared to be a formal robe, rather than the practical clothing of the interrogators. "I am Dr. Nala Vex," the Zaxiri said. "I specialize in xenopsychology, the study of alien minds." Elijah sat up slowly on his platform. His body still ached from the last physical session, but he was recovering faster than he expected. Something about human physiology seemed to surprise the Zaxiri each time. "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-6012, he said automatically. "Doctor." Vex made a gesture that might have been the Zaxiri equivalent of a smile. "Yes, I know. You need not repeat that with me. I am not here to ask questions about your military. I am here to understand you." The doctor placed a small device on the floor. It hummed softly and projected a 3-dimensional image in the center of the cell, a perfect replica of Earth as seen from space. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Dr. Vex said. "Your home." The image changed, showing Earth with parts of its surface glowing red. "This is what it will look like when our fleet arrives. We have already begun the invasion." Elijah kept his face neutral. "Nice try, Doctor. But I know this is a hallucination. Earth is too far from here for you to have already attacked it, core." Image flickered and changed again. Now it showed the horizon, its hull breached in multiple places, bodies of crew members floating in space. "Your ship attempted to return for you," Dr. Vex said. This was the result. Elijah closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, he looked directly at the doctor. Laura Peterson would never risk the ship that way. She would follow protocol and return to Earth Alliance space to report what happened. Dr. Vex tilted its head. "Interesting. You trust your second-in-command completely." "I trust all my crew," Elijah said. It was the first real conversation he'd had since his capture, and he decided to use it to gather information. "Why are the Zaxiri so afraid of humans?" The doctor's scales darkened slightly. "We are not afraid. We are cautious. Your species expanded from 1 planet to 12 colonies in less than a century. Your technology advances at an alarming rate. You are unpredictable. So you torture prisoners to learn about us? That seems counterproductive." "We have found that pain reveals truth," Dr. Vex said. "Though in your case..." It paused, seeming to consider its words. "You are unusual." The image changed again. This time it showed a small house near a lake that Elijah recognized instantly, his home in Seattle. A woman with dark hair was sitting on the porch. "Maria," Elijah whispered, unable to help himself. "Ah, now we find something that matters to you," Dr. Vex said. "Your mate." The image zoomed in on Maria's face. She looked worried, older than when Elijah had last seen her. "She believes you are dead," the doctor said. "The Earth Alliance has already held your memorial service." Elijah felt a pang in his chest but kept his expression neutral. "More mind games, Doctor. If you truly understood humans, you'd know that this only strengthens my resolve." Instead of becoming angry, Dr. Vex seemed pleased. "Fascinating. You use emotional connections as a source of strength rather than weakness." The device on the floor shut off, and the images disappeared. "We will talk again tomorrow, Commander," Dr. Vex said, moving toward the door. "I find you educational." After the doctor left, Elijah lay back on his platform and closed his eyes. He focused on the mental techniques he had been developing during his captivity, creating a safe space in his mind where the pain couldn't reach. He pictured his home, Maria, and their 5-year-old daughter Alice playing by the lake. The Zaxiri didn't understand that by showing him these images, even false ones, they were giving him armor against their torture. 2 weeks passed by Elijah's best guess. Dr. Vex tried every psychological trick known to the Zaxiri: hallucinations of Earth burning, false memories of Elijah betraying his people, images of his crew being tortured. None of it worked. The human had developed a method of retreating into his mind, focusing on memories of his family with such intensity that the doctor's mental attacks couldn't penetrate. After each failed session, Elijah noticed his captors becoming more agitated. They would whisper among themselves when they thought he couldn't hear. Twice he caught Zixara watching him from the doorway of his cell with an expression he couldn't read. Then came the day when everything changed. Zorvak entered his cell alone, without guards. The lead interrogator's scales were a dull gray color that Elijah hadn't seen before. "The High Command has ordered us to use extreme measures," Zorvak said without preamble. "I am required to inform you that what happens next may cause permanent damage to your brain." Elijah sat up straight on his platform. "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-6012. Zorvak's upper hands made a gesture that seemed almost regretful. "Yes, I expected that response. The device we will use is called the Mind Splitter. It is forbidden under normal circumstances." For the first time, Elijah detected something new in the interrogator's voice: reluctance. "Why forbidden?" Elijah asked. Zorvak seemed surprised by the question. "It causes the interrogator to experience an echo of the subject's pain. It is considered too barbaric even by our standards." "Then why use it?" "Because you leave us no choice," Zorvak said. "No species has ever resisted this long. The High Command believes you must be hiding something of great importance." The guards came and took Elijah to a different room than before. This chamber was smaller, with walls of dark metal instead of white. In the center was a chair similar to the one used in previous sessions, but above it hung a device that looked like a metal helmet, with dozens of thin needles pointing inward. Zixara stood by the control panel, her scales a pale yellow color. Dr. Vex was there too, taking readings on a handheld device. "Secure him," Zorvak ordered. As the guard strapped Elijah to the chair, he focused on his breathing. He had learned that the moments before pain were critical. If he could center himself, create his mental sanctuary before the torture began, he could withstand more. The metal helmet lowered onto his head. The needles didn't pierce his skin but stopped just millimeters away, creating an electric field he could feel making his hair stand on end. "Last chance, Commander," Zorvak said. "Tell us what we want to know, and this can end." Elijah closed his eyes. In his mind, he was at Alice's 5th birthday party. The lake sparkled in the sunlight. Alice was laughing as she opened her presents. Maria was smiling at him over their daughter's head. He held onto this image with every ounce of his will. "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-6012, he said, his voice steady. Zorvak nodded to Zixara. "Activate the Mind Splitter, lowest setting first." The pain that followed was unlike anything Elijah had experienced before. It wasn't just physical. It felt like his very thoughts were being torn apart. memories fractured and reformed in chaotic patterns. He saw Alice's face, but it blurred with other images. He heard Maria's voice, but it mixed with strange sounds. Through it all, he clung to his core memory, the anchor that kept him sane. Alice blowing out candles on her cake, 5 tiny flames disappearing in a single breath. His body convulsed in the chair. Blood trickled from his nose and ears. But still, he made no sound. After what felt like hours but might have been minutes, the pain stopped. Elijah slumped in the restraints, conscious but barely. He forced his eyes open and saw something unexpected. Zorvak was leaning against the wall, upper hands pressed to the sides of its head. The interrogator's scales were almost white now, and its body trembled visibly. Zixara looked from Elijah to Zorvak with wide eyes. "The human's mind is still organized," she said in disbelief. "And his vital signs are stabilizing already." Dr. Vex moved closer to Elijah, studying him with what looked like wonder. "How is this possible? The mind splitter should have broken your consciousness into fragments." Elijah's voice was a hoarse whisper, but the words were clear. "Commander Elijah Carter, service number 774-938-6012. The day after the mind splitter session, something unexpected happened. Elijah was left alone. No guards came to take him to interrogation. No one brought him food or water. The cell remained locked, but for the first time since his capture, he was truly by himself. His body was healing with surprising speed. The bleeding from his ears and nose had stopped. The pounding headache had faded to a dull throb. He used the time to exercise, doing push-ups and stretches to keep his muscles from weakening further. On the second day of isolation, the door slid open. Elijah expected to see guards, but it was Zixara who entered, carrying a container of water. "Drink," she said, offering it to him. "You need to regain your strength." Elijah took the container cautiously. "Why are you helping me?" Zixara glanced over her shoulder at the open door. "I do not have much time. Zorvak is meeting with the High Command. They are displeased with our lack of progress." Elijah drank the water, which tasted cleaner than what he had been given before. "That doesn't answer my question. I am helping you because—" Zixara's scales shifted to a deep blue color. "Because what we are doing is wrong. I have never said that aloud before." Elijah studied the junior interrogator. "You're having doubts about your job?" "About more than that. About our entire approach to other species." She took the empty container back. "No one has ever withstood the mind splitter before. It affected Zorvak severely. He is not well." "I'm sorry to hear that," Elijah said, and was surprised to realize he meant it. Despite everything, he didn't hate his captors. They were following their culture's ways, however misguided. "You are strange," Zixara said. "You show concern for the one who tortured you." "Hate takes too much energy," Elijah replied. "Energy I need for survival." The door slid open again. Both Elijah and Zixara turned, expecting guards. Instead, it was Zorvak who entered. The lead interrogator looked different. His scales were a dull gray and he moved slowly as if in pain. The confidence was gone from his posture. "Leave us," he said to Zixara. She hesitated, then bowed slightly and exited the cell. Zorvak stood silent for a long moment, looking at Elijah with an expression the human couldn't read. "Why do you not break?" he finally asked. Elijah hadn't expected this question. "I was trained not to. No training could prepare you for the mind splitter. It destroys the mind's ability to resist. Yet you endured." Zorvak moved closer. "How?" Elijah decided to answer honestly. "I focus on a single memory, my daughter's birthday. I hold it so tightly in my mind that nothing can take it from me. A memory of family." Zorvak seemed confused. "This gives you strength?" "The strongest kind." Zorvak's upper hands made a gesture Elijah hadn't seen before. "When the mind splitter connected us, I felt something. An echo of your thoughts. It was unlike anything I have experienced. There was pain, yes, but also something else. Something powerful. Love, Elijah said simply. Is that what you call it? Zorvak's scales shifted color slightly. In our culture, family bonds are practical arrangements. We do not feel for others as you seem to. Elijah saw an opportunity. If he couldn't escape through force, perhaps understanding could help. Tell me about your people, Zorvak. Why? Do you fear humans so much? The interrogator seemed surprised by the question. You wish to know about us? Even now? Knowledge is always valuable. For a moment, Zorvak was silent. Then, to Elijah's surprise, the alien sat on the floor of the cell. The Zaxiri were once prey long ago. Larger species hunted us until we developed technology and intelligence to protect ourselves. We learned that the only safety was in strength, in knowing more than our enemies, in striking first. So you became the hunters instead of the hunted, Elijah said. Yes, and we have never felt safe enough to stop. Zorvak looked directly at Elijah. Your species reminds us of what we once feared. You adapt quickly. You expand rapidly. You are unpredictable. We don't have to be enemies, Elijah said. The High Command does not share that view. Zorvak stood again. They have ordered your execution. You know too much about us now, and your resistance makes you dangerous. Elijah felt a chill at the words but kept his expression calm. When? Tomorrow. I am sorry, Commander Carter. For what it is worth, you have earned my respect. After Zorvak left, Elijah sat motionless on his platform. Execution. He had always known it might end this way. But he had also seen something important, doubt in his captors. The Zaxiri were not united in their views, and where there was division, there might be hope. Elijah slept fitfully that night, if it was night at all in the unchanging light of his cell. He woke to the sound of the door sliding open. His body tensed, ready for guards to take him to his execution. Instead, Zixara slipped inside, her scales shifting rapidly between colors, a sign of extreme stress. We must hurry, she whispered. The security systems will only be down for 5 minutes. Elijah stood quickly. What's happening? I'm helping you escape. She handed him a small device. This will deactivate the neural interface on your neck. Elijah pressed the device against the thing attached to his neck. There was a soft click and the device fell away. He rubbed the spot where it had been attached, feeling a sense of relief. Why are you doing this? He asked. Your resistance has become known throughout the facility. Whispers have spread. Zixara's voice was urgent. Many of us have questioned our methods for years, but fear kept us silent. You showed us something different, strength without cruelty. She moved to the door and checked the corridor. Clear. Follow me. They moved quickly through the white hallways. Elijah noticed they were taking a different route than the one to the interrogation rooms. Twice they had to duck into side passages to avoid patrols. Where are the other guards? Elijah whispered as they pressed against a wall, waiting for a patrol to pass. It is the sleep cycle. Minimal staff. Zixara glanced at him. I also may have reported a security breach in the lower levels. Most guards were sent there. Elijah was impressed. You've thought this through. I have been planning, since the Mind Splitter session, seeing what it did to Zorvak, and seeing how you endured it. She shook her head. It made me question everything I believed about humans, about my own people. They reached a small room filled with equipment Elijah didn't recognize. Zixara sealed the door behind them. This is a communications hub. We can send a message to your people. My ship is long gone, Elijah said. Yes, but one of your vessels has been detected at the edge of our system. We believe they are searching for you. Hope surged through Elijah. Laura hadn't abandoned him, after all. She must have returned with reinforcements. Zixara moved to a console and began working the controls. I can send a tight beam transmission with your coordinates, but you must add something personal so they know it is truly from you. Elijah thought quickly. Tell them, Alice blew out all 5 candles. My second in command will know what it means. Zixara prepared the message. The door to the communications hub slid open. Elijah spun around, expecting guards. It was Zorvak. The lead interrogator stood in the doorway alone, taking in the scene with unreadable eyes. "I suspected you might do this," he said to Zixara. She stepped in front of Elijah. "It is wrong what we are doing. You know this, Zorvak. I felt your doubt after the mind splitter." "Step aside," Zorvak ordered, moving into the room. Elijah prepared to fight, though he was weakened from weeks of captivity. But to his surprise, Zorvak moved past them both and went to another console. "The high command monitors all transmissions," he said, typing rapidly. "I can create a false signal pattern that will hide your message for approximately 10 minutes. That should be enough time for it to reach the human vessel." Elijah stared in disbelief. "You're helping us?" Zorvak's scales shifted to a deep blue color. "The mind splitter affected me more than you know, Commander. When our minds touched, I experienced something I had never felt before. I saw your memories, felt your emotions. I understood for the first time what drives you humans." He finished typing and stepped back. "Send the message now, Zixara." She quickly completed the transmission. "It's done." "Good," Zorvak said. "Now we must get the human to the emergency shuttle bay. They will detect the transmission eventually." "What about you?" Elijah asked. "Won't they know you helped?" "I will return to my quarters and claim I was resting. There is no proof of my involvement." "And me?" Zixara asked. Zorvak looked at her for a long moment. "Come with us. You cannot stay now." Together the three of them moved through the facility, an unlikely alliance born from understanding rather than force. Elijah noted the irony. Torture had been meant to break him, but instead, it had broken something in his captors, something that perhaps needed to be broken. As they neared the shuttle bay, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. "They've discovered the transmission," Zorvak said. "Run." The shuttle bay was a large chamber with 3 small craft docked in launching positions. Red emergency lights flashed as the alarm continued to blare through the facility. "Take the one on the right," Zorvak said, pointing to the smallest shuttle. "It has the least tracking equipment." Guards appeared at the far end of the bay, weapons raised. "Stop where you are," one shouted. Zorvak pushed Elijah and Zixara behind a stack of supply containers. "I will distract them. When I move, run for the shuttle." Before Elijah could protest, the lead interrogator stepped out into the open. "Lower your weapons," Zorvak ordered the guards. "I am taking the prisoner to a secure location on orders from the High Command." The guards hesitated, clearly unsure about questioning a superior. "The alarm is for a different security breach," Zorvak continued. "Now clear the area." One guard stepped forward. "Sir, we received orders to secure all prisoners and prevent any departures. Are you questioning my authority?" Zorvak's scales darkened to a threatening color. While the guards were focused on Zorvak, Elijah and Zixara moved quietly toward the shuttle. They had almost reached it when one of the guards spotted them. "There, the prisoner is escaping." Weapons fire erupted across the bay. Energy bolts hit the floor and walls around them as they ran. Elijah felt a searing pain in his shoulder as one bolt grazed him, but he kept moving. Zorvak charged the guards, all 4 arms swinging. He knocked 2 down before they could react, but the others turned their weapons on him. Elijah reached the shuttle first and pulled open the hatch. He turned to help Zixara board, then looked back at Zorvak. The lead interrogator was surrounded by guards but still fighting. "We have to help him," Elijah said. Zixara shook her head. "We cannot. The shuttle only seats 2 and he knew what he was doing." She pulled Elijah into the craft. "His sacrifice will not be in vain if we escape." With reluctance, Elijah slid into the pilot's seat. The controls were alien, but Zixara quickly showed him how to activate the engines. "The launch sequence is automatic," she said, pressing a series of buttons. "But you will need to pilot once we clear the facility." The shuttle's engines hummed to life. Through the viewport, Elijah saw Zorvak fall under the guard's attack. Something twisted in his chest. grief for the alien who had tortured him, then saved him. The bay doors began to open but stopped halfway. "They're overriding the launch controls," Zixara said, her voice tight with panic. "Is there enough room to get through?" Elijah asked, eyeing the gap. "Barely. But if we hit the doors, at that speed, we'll make it," Elijah said, gripping the controls. He pushed the throttle forward, and the shuttle shot toward the half-open doors. The craft scraped against the bottom edge of the door with a horrible screech of metal, but then they were through, bursting out into space. Elijah took a moment to look back at the Zaxiri facility, a massive structure built into the side of a mountain on the planet's surface. Then he turned his attention to the stars, searching for any sign of an Earth Alliance vessel. "There," Zixara said, pointing to a distant light moving against the star field. "That must be your people." Elijah adjusted course toward the light. As they flew, a transmission came through the shuttle's communication system. "Unidentified craft, this is Commander Laura Peterson of the Earth Alliance vessel Horizon. Identify yourself." Elijah's heart leapt at the sound of his second-in-command's voice. "Laura, it's Elijah. I've got a friend with me and a lot of stories to tell." There was a pause. Then Laura's voice came back, thick with emotion. "Confirm. Identity with personal code." Alice blew out all 5 candles at once, Elijah said, smiling at the memory that had sustained him through torture. "Identity confirmed. Welcome back, Commander. We've been looking for you." As the horizon grew larger in the viewport, Elijah turned to Zixara. "What will you do now? You can't go back." Her scales shifted to a color he hadn't seen before, something like hope mixed with fear. "I will tell your people what I know. Others among my kind question our ways. Perhaps together we can build something better than fear and torture." Elijah nodded. "One thing I've learned: breaking isn't always bad. Sometimes the things that break are the walls between understanding." The shuttle docked with the horizon, and Elijah Carter stepped back onto his ship. As the medical team rushed to treat his injuries, he realized that in the strangest way possible, his mission had been a success. First contact had been made, not with weapons or threats, but with endurance and, finally, compassion. The human had stayed silent under torture, and in that silence something new had been born.